So I'm going to start this by addressing the elephant in the room, which is the incredibly orange lighting. I've been trying to film this all day. However, you're just gonna have to take me as you find me these days. That's all there is to it. So I wanted to film this today because I want to talk about my Booker reactions / wrap up my little Booker challenge that I set for myself, and I feel like it'll probably be a little bit irrelevant if I leave this until a convenient time to film. So I'm just gonna film it today, and we're just gonna deal. So on Thursday this week, the Booker winner was announced, and that was Douglas Stewart with Shuggie Bain. More on that later, but I wanted to just talk about overall what I found reading the long list this year and how I've enjoyed it, how I've not enjoyed it, etc. Now, I'm not going to lie, I went through the books the other day and I did give away the majority of them. There's not many books that I want to keep, but equally the ones that I do want to keep are ones that have really taken my reading this year to the next level. I've had my first 5-star books, I've got new favourites from it, so it's kind of a mixed bag. It's always going to be the case when you're reading an entire long list from a judging or from a prize, because judges all have different tastes and what's good and what's not is very objective. I think this year they've definitely had a different sort of idea in mind, and I like the idea of representing underrepresented authors, focusing on own voice authors. It was a really diverse and different perhaps long list to what we've seen in previous years with the Booker, which is why I wanted to read it, and I think that's definitely, out of the books that I did enjoy, that is definitely what I enjoyed the most about them. Ultimately, at the time I was a little bit disappointed. I knew that the book I wanted to win, which was The Shadow King by Marsden Mengeist, I knew that wasn't going to win because I've heard too many negative reviews about it. I personally really loved it. I thought the story was fantastic. I thought the writing was amazing. I definitely thought it was the best written book on the shortlist anyway. But ultimately, Shuggie Bain is the book that I liked second best. For me, the reason why I was mainly disappointed was that it didn't really read like a Booker book to me, which is a stupid statement because what is a Booker book? But it was nice, it was a good story, it was important, I think, to look at sort of addiction and mining communities in Glasgow, etc. And it did have a lot going for it. However, it was kind of a nice book that I didn't really feel that strongly about either way. I certainly didn't think that it was going to win, but I've seen a lot of love for that book ever since it won, and actually the interview with Douglas Stewart at the end of the programme makes you realise that a lot of it is based on his own experience with his mother, whom he lost when he was very young to addiction, and that I think kind of adds a lot of poignance to the story. I have ultimately really enjoyed doing this challenge, and I think it was well worth doing at a time when I really was struggling to read. I think I would recommend to anyone, if you're really struggling to read or pick up books that you're going to enjoy, then just try something like this, because you don't have to think about it. You can just get the books that they tell you to get, and you might just find that you really love something that you weren't expecting to love. I've realised that I judge books by their covers far too often. I don't give books a fair chance a lot of the time, and also that I need to diversify my reading, which, to be fair, isn't a new thing. I think we all try to read more diversely and could do with reading more diversely. Oh, I also wanted to talk quickly in this video about a book that I very embarrassingly forgot to mention in my long list wrap up, which was Such a Fun Age by, I think it's Killy Reid. I didn't talk about this because I listened to it on audio, and I just completely forget when I've listened to something on audio, and I think it's a real shame, because actually this is a book that I really wanted to discuss, because I think it's probably, out of the whole long list, it is the book that screams out to me that it should have been on the shortlist. Not because it's the most phenomenally written or anything like that, but I think in terms of this year and the nature of this year and the conversations that we've been having this year, this book is 100% on the ball. This looks at a young girl called Amira who is she's working as a babysitter for a white woman, a white wealthy woman, and she ends up dating a white man. The white man and the white woman have had a past, and they kind of use Amira sort of as a pawn, and they're both just unhealthily involved in her relationship and invested in her as a person. Ultimately, this book looks at what it is to be a good comrade to black people and black voices. Sometimes you can think that you are doing good for the anti-racism cause and the Black Lives Matter movement, and actually you can just be taking up room in a black space or perhaps being a little bit patronising and a little bit rude, and I think that is something that we have all learned about a lot this year. I have to say this was a slow burning book for me, but it's possible that that's because I listened to it on audio, and I was probably ultimately listening to it for about a month overall, and normally obviously if I was reading it physically I could have read it in a few days and it would have been a much more condensed experience for me. That said, I think the message was so strong towards the end that you kind of didn't mind, and it really did pick up the pace and also pick up the message along the way. Yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to talk to you about. I just wanted to do, I didn't want to just leave it hanging in the air. I wanted to do a little video just to wrap everything up. I have to say I'm glad that this challenge is over, not because I haven't enjoyed it, I really have. But for one thing, I think once you've read books that you sort of prescribed for yourself, it's kind of like when you're in school, isn't it? And you get a bit, not churey, but you kind of would rather pick up stuff that you've already got on your shelf that you want to read for fun, which is definitely what I have found doing this. Even though it has kick-started my reading, it made me really realise that there are so many books on my shelf that I want to read, and perhaps in some cases wanted to read more than the books that I was reading for the Booker Prize. Also, it has been a bit of a challenge having a newborn and trying to juggle that and writing and reading these books. I only just managed, I think I managed to read them all with like 2 weeks ago, which is not bad going, but I did DNF 2 of them, so technically I was right up to the wire with it. But yeah, it's been fun, but I think it's nice now that I can just read what I want to read, and also that I don't have to sit down and read, because honestly my partner was getting entirely neglected. I'd put Elliot down at 7, I would sort things out and do chores and things, and then I would write for an hour, and then I would read for the last 2 hours of my evening. There was just no time for him, you know. He'd be like, oh, shall we watch a film? No, sorry, I'm reading my Booker books. So now we can actually do things together, which is nice. But yeah, as I say, I think this was fantastic for my reading. It's definitely given me a boost, and I'm back in that space where I want to read everything voraciously, which is fantastic because I haven't been in that space for so long. Even before I had Elliot, there was about a year where I just wasn't interested in reading. It's probably been over a year now, maybe 2 years, that reading has just not given me the joy that it used to give me, and I think that makes me really sad. So yeah, this has given me that back, and I think it's kind of just reminded me why I love reading, how good it is to find an unexpectedly fantastic book. Let me know down below if you read any of the Booker nominees this year, and do please discuss what you think of the winner. Yeah, I will see you next time. Bye.